Hello, everybody. My name is Stephen D. Kelley. This is the Stephen D. Kelley Show, and we are Truth Cat Radio, www.truthcatradio. And it is Thursday night. It's now 6:03 p.m., June 8th, 2023. It's 71 degrees and sunny here in La Puente, California. What is La Puente famous for? I don't know. Not much, except for me here. That's it. Yeah, that's it. I put La Puente on the map. Anyway, I don't have a title for you yet tonight. I mean, last show, I guess I pulled the same stunt on you guys, and I ended up talking about Russian stuff. Tonight, I want to talk about something else. I know there was a few things that were kind of bugging me all week that I figured that I would just wait until showtime to expound on. You know, this is my moment where I get to blurt out all that stuff that I want to say during the week that I hold back on. Anyway, I hate it. You should never say but basically what I want to tell you is that the thing that's kind of pissing me off that I'm going to focus on right now, which we could also consider as a good thing if you want to consider that any time the enemy does something that seems to be hijacking our mission, that is a good indicator that our mission is actually being successful. And the biggest news story here that's starting to get out there in our interwebs is the Mel Gibson coming up with producing some sort of a 4-part series, a documentary series on human trafficking, and I assume that means child trafficking. Well, unfortunately, what this means is that he's in bed with the guys like Tim Ballard, you know, ex-CIA, whatever the heck, that guy, and the people from the Underground Railroad types. And we know that his buddy, Mel's buddy, Jim Caviezel, the one that played Jesus in The Passion of the Christ, is a big public face spokesperson for this Underground Railroad thing that's out there trying to convince people that children are being rescued. I don't know what they're saying, but I think, you know, obviously the whole purpose for this children being rescued stuff coming from these institutions is that the government's okay, everything's okay, America's okay, don't worry, you've got these people taking care of it, and if you just give some money to this cause, that it'll happen sooner than later, and you can relax and you won't be hearing any more about children in need to be rescued. So obviously, of course, this is going to be a political thing. We can expect that some of the things that are said are going to be truths, and some things will be speculation, and some things will be purely political and probably correct at the same time. But we know what they're not going to say. They're not going to say Getty. There's no way they're going to say Getty. Now Mel, he actually lives pretty close to that place. I think it's out in Malibu, but you know, which Getty location is closer to him? The Getty Center, the big elevator, or the lesser facility out there in the Malibu area? I'm guessing he lives closer to the old Getty pedo compound out in Malibu, but who knows? We'll have to ask him about that. And it wasn't that long ago here, I don't know, a few months ago, that I sent him a copy of the book and a nice little letter. And this was going to supposedly his, I don't know, mental therapist or something of this nature. Now, of course, people like that, they don't care. They certainly don't care. A lot of people act like they care. Actors act like they care. But so whether or not he got this stuff, I don't know. But I'm inclined to think that he did, just like I'm inclined to think that somehow Netflix got a hold of my stuff when they came up with their pretext or their concept for Stranger Things. Now, I suppose it was only a matter of time before Mel would get involved. I mean, obviously, we've been thinking that he was the only one that could do something like this, and that he would be the obvious choice for somebody to produce a Getty movie or a Truth Cat movie or anything related to my book, perhaps. But apparently, no. Now, I'm going to guess it's because he's ignorant. Now, it's unfortunate because, and this is a thing that really bothers me, because I want really, really badly to have people out there that I can respect and look up to and think that they're going to actually be useful and helpful and maybe even know things that I would hope they would know and not be, well, let's just say, not just ignorant, but thinking things that I know are wrong. Mel, I kind of thinking if you're hooking yourself up, if you're tying your wagon to the Underground Railroad people and your buddy Caviezel, I suppose it was only a matter of time before you would do that. But at the same time, I'm pretty sure you've heard about Occupy the Getty. I'm pretty sure you might have even had someone send you my book or my screenplay at one time or another. There's a good possibility. Either way, one thing we know for sure is that you're not exposing anything. You're not going to do anything dangerous. You're not going to do anything to hurt the Hollywood animal that's at the very heart of all of this evil. You certainly can't possibly be operating in Hollywood and making movies and expecting to do anything involving the media if it's in any way detrimental, telling the truth. Kind of like Tucker Carlson. Got to tell you a little bit about Tucker. Apparently he did get canned. Before I talk about Tucker, though, I want to talk about JFK Jr., another big disappointment for me. He's still the least of all the evils, but at the same time, at this point, I don't know anymore if we can say somebody is evil or somebody has been corrupted or somebody is actively working for the enemy. I think what's most likely in all of these situations is these people are ignorant. They just don't know. Now, I've also come to the conclusion that it's not necessarily because people are stupid, because when I say people, I have to look at all humans. I think, by and large, most humans, when it comes to intelligence, innate intelligence, are relatively similar. Nature or nurturing, sure, everything plays a role, but at the same time, I think that human potential for intelligence is relatively high. And of course, this is something we don't see. But what we do see is programming. And I think that instead of saying that people are stupid or people are evil or this or that, I think we should say they're programmed. And ultimately, what determines intelligence? True intelligence, wisdom, maybe it's the ability to lose that programming. So I just want to suggest that these people that I'm talking about may not be satanic. They may not be sounding good, but at the same time working for the enemy, or ultimately be, well, technically we're all doing that. We're all tools. Ultimately, if you're a human and you've got any programming whatsoever, I think there's a good chance that whatever efforts you make will be used in the service of Satan. So, Mel, you're going to get used. If you don't want to say the truth that we know, I understand that. You like having your cushy life. You like having a bank account. You like, well, maybe you're afraid. You think they're going to kill you. Maybe you did sell your soul way back when. Who knows? But either way, we know you don't have the guts to say the truth, unless, of course, you're ignorant, which we're going to have to go with, or you're still deeply programmed. And that includes the information that you're getting from the so-called COINTEL controlled opposition people, the ones that appear to be saying the things that coincide, resonate with you, coincide with what you believe or resonate with what you feel, and yet they're getting that exposure that they wouldn't get if they weren't basically sponsored by the enemy. So this is very unfortunate. At the same time, though, I can't really complain because, sure, the efforts to bang the drum, the anti-human trafficking drum, continue. Now, I could complain about this guy that did the so-called remote viewing. I talked about him on the previous show. It's kind of the similar, a very, not the same, obviously, but it kind of follows this pattern of trying to basically eventually telling everybody that the problem's over. The children have been rescued, and this is something that we're talking about in the past tense. So I really don't know what this movie is going to try to do, but it's obviously going to be supposedly documenting something, which I assume means they're going to actually try to show things that have already happened, not promote something that hasn't happened, like the Getty being occupied. I want to talk about Kennedy here just for a moment, only because I saw him say something recently that was very disturbing. Now, it's unfortunate because obviously the DNC and the Democrats and Joe Biden and all that, they're not going to ever let him enter into any sort of debate or any sort of public forum where he's actually facing off against Biden, because that would certainly be a disaster for the Democrats. So he'll really never go anywhere. So if anything, his candidacy is just a protest, and he's using this pulpit to say all these things that he wants to say, but his desire to actually take office, clearly it's not going to go anywhere if his name is not going to be on the ticket. And if he's serious about running, he should probably run as an independent, because I don't think it matters. There's no reason why he has to be a Democrat with his name. There's plenty of opportunity to go the independent route, and I would hope that he would do that if the Democrats cut him off, and maybe this is what he's waiting for, that's the route he'll go. However, in spite of all the good things he's saying and the things he's saying that are true, at the same time, he also says some things that clearly show that he's being manipulated, or he's just ignorant, or both, or he's one of them. And that being his continuous harping on the CIA as being the enemy and having done all these terrible things, from labs, biological labs in Ukraine to, well, you name it, killing his uncle. Now, he had Mike Pompeo talking to him. He was talking to Mike Pompeo, and of course Mike Pompeo was talking up this guy, and he was saying how he agreed and he would help him dismantle the CIA, as if to suggest that should he win the election and Mike Pompeo become part of his cabinet, that he would shut down, dismantle the CIA. Now here's the thing. Pompeo, of course, publicly is CIA. But he's not CIA. He's NSA. And he's not NSA. He's Intertel. So here we have the NSA hiding behind the CIA, offering to dismantle the CIA, leaving us with that agency that we all depend on so much for our security, the National Security Agency, as if to suggest that you can't possibly say anything bad about the National Security Agency. Why would anybody do that? We all want to see our country secure. And yet, that's the heart of the monster. Those are the people running the bunkers that are hiding the children. And if anything, the CIA are the flunkies that run around, do the dirty work with the white vans and pick up the children to be delivered to the NSA. So this is all incredible. And I'll tell you, I've been wanting to talk to Kennedy. And of course, unfortunately, some of the people that have been helping me to try to reach out to him have been representing this in such a way as to make it look like I want to interview him. No, I don't want to interview him. There's nothing he can tell me that I don't know or anything I think that's interesting because, again, maybe not so much that he's ignorant, but he's programmed. And for his whole life, he's been programmed to think the CIA did this and the CIA did that. Now, another thing that occurred to me, which should be really obvious by now, is that it's very common for our leaders, our so-called presidents, etc., to use their children to do their dirty work. We all know about Hunter Biden and his crack pipe and his dealings with China and Ukraine. I mean, when Obama was president, and technically he still is because he's running things behind the scenes, but when Obama was president, it was Joe Biden that was the king of the Ukraine. And now, of course, that would be Hunter Biden. But this stuff did not start with them. It's been going on for a long time. And sure, Ronald Reagan probably didn't. His son had no ambition. He was kind of a, well, let's just say he was more interested in ballet. But other ones, well, Obama, what has he got? He's got 2 daughters that aren't his, that are, that he pretends to be his. That shit's getting really old. Sorry. All this pretending crap. Let's see, who else? Who came before that? Bush. Well, obviously the Bush family, they got mixed up in crap. And Trump, of course, his whole family got mixed up in crap. So, yeah, this is very common. And I should know that more than anybody because it was Richard Nixon's nephew, in this case, that was doing all the dirty work, working for Robert Vesco, the #1 mafia guy of all time, well, at least, recent history, that recruited us, me and my brother and I. So there you go. So this it's not that far-fetched at all. Anyway, so in other words, if you want to suggest that a relative of a president, dead or otherwise, are going to be any different, I don't know. But I do know that this one was an environmental lawyer, and now he thinks that he's a, geopolitical expert. How the hell is he a geopolitical expert if he hasn't even figured out Intertel, or he hasn't figured out the connection between the NSA and the CIA? He's been running around chasing after the CIA nonsense. It's like, yes, his uncle JFK was assassinated. That's the original conspiracy theory that people have been chasing forever. What's the point? What's the point? Talk, and they still haven't figured it out. So, of course, this concerns me only in that somebody that I actually thought might be a good alternative to Bush, or not Bush, but Trump or Biden, is still ignorant and would still be used. And at the same time, I feel pretty damn isolated. It really bothers me that I'm the only one that sees these things or knows these things, which is probably why we're so much problems, which is probably why my damn computer is not working properly. Or my microphone. Now I know it's not my microphone. Well, yeah, Christian, I guess that means I get a new interface. Anyway, whoop-de-whoop. All right, so that's a very big problem. And it leads me back to something else that I have to be harassing you guys about all the time, and that is the continually looking for the answer someplace else. It just doesn't stop. Now, this morning, Renetta made a comment about, Bush and Israel. I put a thing, yes, Bush is very or not Bush, I'm sorry, Trump. For whatever reason, I'm calling Trump Bush. Same thing, I guess. Anyway, everybody freaked out about this thing, and that was very unnecessary. But the thing that aside from the reactions of everybody and their, personal agendas and what have you, what was important was that the person that disagreed was very similar to another person that could only say proof. Ask for proof. I don't agree with this. Give me proof. Not even give me proof, just the word proof. That in itself is extremely discouraging because, again, it's the programming. And what is this proof supposed to do? Break the programming? How strong is that programming? What is proof besides a single word? It's one of those words that's abused. It's very unfortunate. But this is what we're trained. This is how we're trained to think. And this is why if Mel Gibson puts out a movie and it says all kinds of crap, but it does not mention my name, it does not mention the Getty or the Occupy the Getty mission, what's it going to do? It's going to provide a lot of polished Hollywood content presented as truth or proof, when in fact all it is more programming. More programming. So I guess the bottom line is the only thing that matters is the programming that's coming from us. That's why I'm getting frustrated. Because you guys don't want to listen to me, and if you just don't, you keep going looking for answers outside, and I can't believe, like the woman that was defending this Mel Gibson movie, she said, that's not true, as if to suggest that Mel's a good guy and he's a wholesome, conscientious, good Christian, and he wants this and he wants that. That could very well be true. But at the same time, if it was true, why hasn't he reached out to me? Why hasn't he heard about me? Why is he not part of my group, Occupy the Getty / Stephen D. Kelley on Telegram? I don't believe it. I don't believe it for a second. So, does that make him a bad guy? Does that make him COINTEL? Maybe. Maybe the reality is that he wants to talk between the lines. He wants to do some good. He wants to save some children. But at the same time, he doesn't want to do anything that's going to jeopardize his life, his wealth, his status in society. He's not going to do anything. He's not going to say Getty. He doesn't have the balls. Mel Gibson does not have the balls to say Getty. I can guarantee you this. He won't do it. If he did, that would be important. But if he did, what's he going to do? Jump on the bandwagon of the Mercuries of the world, Rob Mercuries, or whatever, the losers that keep trying to tell us that there's no kids, nothing to see here, show's over, go home. Is he going to do the same thing? Probably. We'll have to wait and see. I'm not going to watch it, but maybe you guys can watch it and tell me, just like listening to that Mercury's thing saying there was no kids down there. There's kids down there. They can't live without the kids being down there. Anyway, I think I'm going to take a little break. I'll come back. I'll talk about the list with what's going on in Ukraine and the geopolitical spectrum. And hopefully you'll stick around for that. All right. I'll see you guys real quick. All right. I was going to talk a little bit about Ukraine. It's been a little bit slow ever since the Russians took over the former Bakhmut and all that. I mean, it hasn't been slow. It's certainly been active. It's just that we don't hear quite all the chatter about what's going on. Let me just see who's listening here. Oh, we got the usual bunch. We got Tonawanda, New York, instead of Buffalo. Okay, Well, obviously, if you've been paying any attention, the big thing right now is a dam being destroyed. And of course, the dam was under the control of the Russians, and the Western media naturally, and that includes Ukraine, is saying that the Russians blew up the dam as to suggest, I guess, that by flooding all the territory below it, which it did, it if you look at the before and after satellite pictures, it flooded quite a bit of territory. They're going to suggest that that whole area now is not going to be able to be transited by armor and troops in any kind of an offensive. So there's a couple ideas. People are thinking, well, they're trying to say the Russians did that to keep the Ukrainians from doing an offensive in this area. Obviously, that's a joke. Russians are not blowing up Soviet-made infrastructure. It's ridiculous. It's the same thing as saying that the Russians blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. Obviously, we know that's not true. But here we are. The reality, of course, is that this was done by the Ukrainians, and there's a couple serious issues about this. Well, why would the Ukrainians do this? For one thing, they need to do something serious to distract everybody from this failure from them to launch an offensive. And in spite of the fact that they have not basically announced that they've launched their offensive, yes, they have launched their offensive, but what that means is that they're going at it on the entire front line. They're trying to find a hole somewhere. They're trying to break through anywhere they can. They're throwing everything they got, and they're losing pretty heavily. Sometimes, within like half an hour, they'll lose 32 tanks or something of this nature. It's not a good thing. But this is desperation time, and it's certainly not getting any better. And of course, the West is doing this incredible projection where they'll say that it's the Russians that are running out of weapons and it's the Ukrainians that are on the offensive and moving forward. None of this is true. They're still trying to penetrate over there in Russian territory in Belgorod. And now Belgium has come out and said that those weapons or those vehicles that were clearly American-made hardware came from Belgium. They're saying, hey, what's going on here? We gave that to you under the strict assurances that you weren't going to use this to attack Russians on Russian territory. Shame on you. So, they're in denial. Pardon me. Yes. So you got to wonder, we're all waiting for this big Russian offensive. They've trained up all these troops. They've only got so many troops committed to this so-called special military operation. You got to wonder, when are they going to move in and when are they going to take over? Well, basically, that could happen at any time because there's a couple things. This offensive, when it fails, there isn't going to be anything left. There isn't going to be any hardware or anything really to prevent Russia from going all the way to Kiev. And certainly their plan is to denazify the country, basically remove the current regime and replace the American, Western it's American. We put those guys in there. And of course, yes, they're Nazis. They're from the western parts of Ukraine, and that has to be rooted out. So if that means turning it into a Russian satellite for some time, that's probably what's going to happen. Doesn't really matter, but they're not going to stop. Those people out there that think that the Russians are going to fold and they just are looking for a way out, and they're only interested right now in basically protecting those 4 territories that they've annexed. No, that's not true at all. This will not end until the Nazis are out of Ukraine, because they can't have the territory formerly known as Ukraine ever being a threat again. That means that they can never have the territory formerly known as Ukraine ever militarizing to taking in Western weapons like they're doing now. Poland, of course, these other countries, that's a whole nother story. But what's very likely going to happen, of course, we haven't reached the June 12th event where they're going to have all that NATO air power up there all at once in Estonia, I guess. But what is happening, though, is that they're going to do everything they can to try to get NATO involved militarily, boots on the ground, and that is just not going to happen. So what they can do, and what they probably will try to do, is come up with a local alliance, like, say, a block of members from Eastern Europe, Poland, Bulgaria, Romania, etc. These are all could be members of NATO, but at the same time, they can have a regional bloc dedicated to protection, self-protection. This would be very similar to, say, when Syria invited Hezbollah and Iran and Russia to come help it go on the offensive against ISIS. Of course, the West was very much against that, but in this situation, of course, with Ukraine, the West, I'm sure, would find this as a very, well, let's just say, a compromise or a good step in the right direction without having actual United States troops, i.e. NATO boots on the ground, fighting Russia. Now, for what really kind of amazes me is that these countries like Poland, take any one of them, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, any one of them, especially even the Czech Republic, which of course is half of what was Czechoslovakia, the other half being Slovakia. They all have these incredibly short memories, or maybe it's their memories are a problem, because they all have these memories of Soviet occupation and that kind of thing. But post World War II, they should all understand that they're really no stronger. And unfortunately, here comes that programming. They all think that as long as they have the United States, the bulk of the West behind it, no matter what they do, they can get away with it. Now where does that programming come from? I think it comes from leftover World War II programming. I don't want to talk about the smog. People are telling me to talk about the damn smoke. That's a distraction. So anyway, Renetta, you distracted me. Well, basically, the point is that where does this programming come from? The Western media? The Western psyche? I mean, this has been going on since World War II. I mean, since post-World War II, you see the leadership of Europe has been completely pussified. It's like amazing. If you look at these Greens that came into a country like Germany, these were people who posed as environmentalists. It's kind of like Kennedy. And then what do? They start genocidal wars. They cripple the country. They're anti-Russian pipeline. They're anti-Nord Stream. They're anti-nuclear. They shut down all the nuclear plants in Germany. It's so bad that Germany is basically deindustrializing. Europe is deindustrializing. They are deindustrializing. They're shooting themselves in the feet, and at the same time, they're expending all of their ammunition and whatever they have to fight with. Now, what do they have? They have their programming. They have their media. That's all they have. They have their spin. And they actually believe this crap. And the people that are running it all, they actually believe this stuff too. Now, I wanted to go in a couple directions with this. Let me see. Well, I was talking about the whole geopolitical thing, but the de-dollarization, that is a for sure thing. When you take some of these big countries, Brazil's a big country, India's a big country, China's a big country, Russia's a big country, people with big populations, large land masses, these are the real powers. These are the true powers. Now, the world power structure, of course, is based on the UN Charter. And part of the UN Charter, of course, they've got, 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council. These are the permanent members. Doesn't matter the status or the power of their country, but these are the victors of World War II. France, Britain, whatever it is, USA, Russia, China, I guess is it? Is those guys? Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to get proper research. But the point is that here we are, European Union, the European Union, the West, led by the Biden administration, which of course is Obama and Hillary. Here we are trying to shame all these other countries into avoiding Russia and not be part of their system, and to enforce sanctions, and to give weapons to Ukraine, and to make Ukraine important, to act like Ukraine's important, and to somehow jump on the bandwagon and blame Russia for all this Nazi BS. Well, here you got a country like, let's see, which one? Take your pick. I think it was Brazil, was it? Or was it India? I get the two. I mean, Modi, it was either Modi or the other guy, but I think they both said the same thing. And I'm pretty sure Modi, the prime minister, whoever the leader of India, said this, that if you're asking for help, if you want to find a solution to this, the natural place to find a diplomatic solution, the place that was actually created for the purpose of finding solutions for situations like this, is the United Nations. That's what the United Nations was for. However, if a country like India or Brazil or one of these large countries is being asked to be involved and is somehow now suddenly strategically important to the point to where their opinion and their economic and military clout have something to do with trying to force the policy of the West upon an enemy of the West, they say, solve it in the United Nations and the world body made for that purpose. And at the same time, why do you have countries like France and England and these ghosts of World War II as permanent members of the Security Council? Why don't you add countries like, I don't know, Brazil, India? There's a few of them out there that have significance now that should also be involved in the world. Look at the Southern Hemisphere. Who in the Southern Hemisphere is in the United Nations Security Council? Nobody. Obviously, that's not okay. So, the belligerents, and not the belligerents, but the USA or the collective West that seems to think that it's the rule maker and the rule enforcer for the rest of the world, seems to have forgot that the institution that they created for this purpose is the place to do these things. And second of all, it's not a world body if it's not fair, and it's only represented by countries who have diminishing, fleeting significance, financial or population-wise, in the world today. Obviously, the UK is a very tiny, hollow shadow of its colonial empire days, but it still thinks that it is the leader. And why is that, of course? Well, gosh, that's because they came out on top in Waterloo and managed to hoodwink the rest of the world into a fiat currency World Bank system, care of the Rothschilds. So they really think they have power, just like the EU, Brussels, The Hague, these places that seem to think they're the court of the world. They're not even legitimate. These are Rothschild entities. They're not legitimate. As long as these entities are running around thinking that they have more power than they do, the rest of the world, they're over our bullying. They're over this bullshit. They're over this holier than thou rule-making bully bullshit. And they know we all should be paying attention to what's happening. Now, obviously, Trump is no better, but if Biden wasn't there, if Hillary had never gotten involved, if Obama had never resurrected this Nazi bullshit with his neocon liberal Zionist nonsense, satanic bullshit, we wouldn't be in this situation. But this plan to try to provoke Russia into World War III to destroy that country and take it over has been going on since World War II. It never ended. This is the same Nazis from World War II doing the same Nazi crap. This NATO is a Nazi organization. The Nazis never went away. And if you think that Project Paperclip was all about Nazis being recruited into the CIA, no. NSA. So once again, there's that programming. But I'll tell you, more and more people, they're starting to say this out loud. And it's getting harder and harder for the West to hide this. But once again, when the West says that the Ukrainian military has a Nazi issue because the troops on the front line are all sporting Nazi symbols, again, they're in denial. This has nothing to do with admiring Hitler or the Wehrmacht. This is everything to do with these guys being actual Nazis in the center of the home and birthplace of Chabad. And it's not because they want to persecute the Jews, because they are the Jews. They always have been the Jews. You notice Porky Poroshenko is back on the scene, talking up a little bit. He probably smells blood in the water because he knows that Zelensky, another Jew, is looking kind of bad right now. And he's thinking maybe it's his shot to come back and get reelected and play the next president of Ukraine in some sort of a transition with the Russians perhaps, and try to preserve their country. But it's going to go away. But unfortunately in the West, there is no negotiation. This is a win everything or lose everything situation for the West. Because what is the West? It's the Zionist Nazis. It's the Intertel. It's the NSA. It's the mafia. It's this Rothschild satanic crap that's been going on since Amschel Meyer or whoever it was, and Jacob Frank and what is his name? Simon Weishaupt got together and started the Illuminati. And then, of course, it's been going on longer than that. But the point is that, again, everybody's stupid because it's been going on for hundreds of years and you still haven't got it yet. Trillions and trillions of dollars later, millions and millions of people dead, you still haven't got it. You haven't figured out. You're not willing to do anything. You're clinging to your programming. You're clinging to your slave status. And that's all we have. We're all a bunch of slaves because the government is everything. The government is the enemy. This revolution that's coming, this change that's coming, this movement, Occupy the Getty, if you want to call it a revolution, there will be no slave masters. These guys are going away. These elite, this class, this status. Let me just say this, just for shits and giggles so you guys can get a feeling for where I'm coming from, okay? Do you think that once we're successful, do you think that once this is over, do you think we're still going to make yachts? Do you think we're still going to make Lamborghinis and things like that? Do you think? Prada, that kind of stuff? Seriously, people. I'm not talking about Pol Pot here. I'm not talking about Marxism. But this shit's going to go away and the world is going to look different. You will have your Jetsons. You will have all that good stuff. You will have stuff that you can't even comprehend right now. But these things that you love now, they're going to go away. All right? That's just the way it's got to be. And that's why people like Mel Gibson, who's going to do this for money, he's not doing this for charity. I'm pretty sure he's not doing this for charity because ultimately all these guys are in it for the money. Obviously. As long as they're getting a paycheck. I'm sure Jim Caviezel is not working for free all this time. Pretty sure. Somebody should ask him. Somebody should do maybe a look and see just how much money Jim Boy, our fake Jesus guy, has made doing this thing. What's it pay to be a spokesperson for, what is it, Underground Railroad? Same thing with the other guy. What's that pay? I'm guessing it's a lot. 100,000 a year. Who knows what? Anyway, by the way, if you guys want to donate to the cause, I will accept it. Law17 got it. No, I'm sorry. Law17 got it. AOL.com is my email. All right, we're going to be going pretty quick here. It's like 6:52. I'm sorry if I babbled too much, though. I noticed there's even more of you listening than there was a few minutes ago, so that's a good thing. Shout out to all of you. Look, people, it's just not looking good, okay? Once again, the Occupy the Gay is the only thing that's going to save this. And I'll tell you, if nobody's got the balls to do it, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, obviously, it pains me. It pains me to think that I'm the only one that is either smart enough or not, doesn't have the programming or has the balls to do this, or the willingness to sacrifice the status quo. I just don't know what to tell you, but I'm fortunate that I have all of you guys working so hard, and I'm really happy that we have grown to the point to where this is getting to where it is. And I should say that these guys making this documentary and Mel finally doing something like this, in a way, that's indicative of all the work that we've done. But again, it's not enough. You guys got to work harder. And you got to make more noise. And every time they do anything that seems like it's going to hijack this movement, you have to reach out and you have to say so. It's like if someone says something you don't like, don't be thinking it's about you. No, turn it around and make it about the mission. Make it about me. If they say that so-and-so's a pedo, and they say, you're wrong because this is what I went through my whole life. No, that's not how it works. Because it's not about you, it's about the mission, all right? So you need to remember that, you guys, okay? What else I want to say? Oh, yeah, if you want to donate, you got to use the PayPal, and it's StephenKelley714@yahoo.com. You got to say friend or family, or I will send it back, okay? And again, thank you to those people that do contribute. And I know things are rough now. It's incredibly expensive. Oh, my gosh, food's expensive. Oh, my gosh, I can't. It's terrible. So I pity you all. And again, I couldn't do any of this without your support. So I thank you all so much, especially those of you that are regular, contributors. Every time I see something show up in PayPal, it humbles me. Okay, and don't think I don't notice, and don't think I'm not thankful. All right, because I am. All right, that's enough for tonight. But once again, join the Telegram group. Occupy the Getty. Stephen D. Kelley. Very important. I need you guys in there. Help me get up to at least 5,000 here. I just need a few hundred more. We'll get 5,000 here pretty soon. I'd like that. Okay, let me see that. What else? All right, that's it. I'm going to leave you guys with that. But I'm just going to say again, thank you so much. And again, this is my name is Stephen Kelley, and this is the Stephen D. Kelley Show. And we are Truth Cat Radio. I hope the sound was okay tonight. I mean, I turned everything up. I'm yelling into the microphone, and I'll try to fix it. Either way, bear with me. Okay, so I'll see you guys all next week, God willing, all right? And with that, I will say good night, God bless, adios, and goodbye.